I never thought I'd be that mom who secretly records family gatherings, but my sister-in-law, Alice, left me no choice. Standing in our kitchen on a quiet Tuesday morning, watching my 8-year-old son, Marcus, push his cereal around the bowl, I knew something had to change. "Sweetie," I said, trying to keep my voice gentle, "you know you can tell me anything, right?" Marcus just shrugged, not meeting my eyes. He hadn't been the same since we started having weekly family dinners at Alice's house 3 months ago. My usually bright, chatty boy had become withdrawn, picking at his food and making excuses to skip meals. "Is it about the family dinners?" I pressed, sitting down next to him. "Did something happen at Aunt Alice's house?" His small shoulders tensed and he pushed his bowl away. "I'm not hungry anymore. Can I go get ready for school?" I watched him trudge up the stairs, his Spider-Man backpack dragging behind him. The sight made my heart ache. Ever since my husband Tom's parents passed away last year, his sister, Alice, had insisted on hosting weekly family dinners to keep the family together. But something wasn't right. "He's just going through a phase," Tom said later that evening when I brought up my concerns. He was reviewing case files from his law firm, barely looking up from his laptop. "Alice says all kids his age get picky about food." "Since when is Alice an expert on children?" I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. "She doesn't even have kids of her own." "Lisa." Tom finally looked up, his expression tired. "Please don't start. Alice is trying her best to keep the family traditions going after Mom and Dad. After what happened." I bit back my response. The car accident that took Tom's parents had left deep wounds in the family, and Alice had stepped into the matriarch role with surprising intensity. Sometimes I wondered if she was trying to replace her mother or just seize control. "I just think it's strange that Marcus has to eat in the guest room while everyone else eats at the table," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. When I asked Alice why, she said something about him being too energetic for formal dinners. Tom's face clouded over. "Alice knows what she's doing. She practically raised me after our older sister moved away. Just try to be more understanding, okay?" Understanding. That word was starting to feel like a cage. Every time I questioned Alice's decisions, I was told to be more understanding. When she criticized my parenting, my cooking, my career choices, always with that sugary sweet smile, I was expected to understand. But something changed the following Sunday. We arrived at Alice's sprawling Victorian house for dinner, and I watched as she immediately swooped in to separate Marcus from the group. "Oh, sweetie," she cooed, her perfectly manicured hand gripping his shoulder too tightly. "You know where you need to go. Maria laid out your dinner in the guest room. We wouldn't want you disturbing the adults' conversation, would we?" I opened my mouth to object, but Tom's warning look stopped me. Marcus hung his head and trudged up the stairs while Alice's housekeeper, Maria, watched with an unreadable expression. The dinner proceeded like all the others. Alice held court at the head of the table, regaling us with stories about her recent promotion at the bank. Tom's younger brother, James, and his wife nodded along, occasionally shooting nervous glances at the stairs. I pushed my food around the plate, straining to hear any sound from upstairs. "Lisa, dear," Alice's voice cut through my thoughts. "You've barely touched your roast. Is my cooking not up to your standards?" "The food is fine," I replied, forcing a smile. "I'm just worried about Marcus eating alone up there." Alice's smile didn't waver, but her eyes turned cold. "Some children need to learn proper behavior before they can join the adults. I'm only trying to help you, dear. Your parenting has been a bit lacking since you went back to work." The table fell silent. I gripped my fork so hard my knuckles turned white, but before I could respond, Maria appeared at my elbow. "Senora," she said quietly, "could you help me in the kitchen for a moment? There's something wrong with the dessert." Grateful for the escape, I followed her into the kitchen. But instead of heading to the refrigerator, Maria closed the door and turned to face me, her expression grave. "Senora Lisa, there's something you need to know," she whispered, glancing nervously at the door. "I've worked for Senora Alice for 5 years, and I've seen things. Bad things." My heart started racing. "What do you mean?" Maria pulled out her phone, her hands shaking slightly. "I installed cameras in the house last year, after some jewelry went missing. But what they caught—" She paused, taking a deep breath. "Your son isn't just eating alone up there. The things Senora Alice says to him when no one is around." She pressed play on a video, and my world tilted sideways. The footage showed the guest room where Marcus ate his meals, but it wasn't empty. Alice stood over him, her face twisted into an expression I'd never seen before. "You're just like your mother," her voice dripped with venom. "Weak. Unworthy. You think you deserve to be part of this family? Your father only married her out of pity, and you're a constant reminder of his mistake." I watched in horror as she knocked his plate to the floor, making him clean it up while she continued her tirade. The timestamp showed this was from last week's dinner. "There's more," Maria said softly. "Much more. She's been doing this every week, getting worse each time." I couldn't stay silent anymore, not after seeing him cry himself to sleep last Sunday. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. "Does Tom know?" Maria shook her head. "Senora Alice is very careful. She only does this when she's sure no one will catch her." "But I have all the videos backed up." "Send them to me," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Send me everything." As I walked back to the dining room, I could hear Alice's laugh floating through the air, light and musical. The perfect hostess. But now I knew what lurked beneath that polished surface, and I was done being understanding. That night, after Marcus was tucked safely in bed, I sat in our home office watching the videos Maria had sent. Each clip felt like a knife to my heart. Alice's perfect mask slipped away the moment she thought no one was watching, revealing something cruel and twisted underneath. "Pathetic little boy," she sneered in one video, watching Marcus try to eat his dinner with shaking hands. "You're the reason this family is falling apart. Your mother poisoned my brother's life, and now you're doing the same." In another, she accidentally spilled water on his homework, then mocked him for crying. "So sensitive, just like your worthless mother. No wonder Tom's been so stressed lately." By the time Tom came home from his late meeting, I had watched hours of footage. My eyes were red from crying, but my sadness had crystallized into something harder. "We need to talk," I said as he loosened his tie. "Can it wait? I'm exhausted, and—" "No." I turned my laptop around. "It can't wait. You need to see what your sister has been doing to our son." Tom's face went through a range of emotions as he watched the first video: disbelief, confusion, anger, and finally, devastating realization. By the third clip, he was gripping the desk so hard his knuckles turned white. "This can't be real," he whispered. Alice wouldn't. She couldn't. "Maria has been recording everything," I said quietly. "Every dinner, every time she sent Marcus upstairs to eat alone. This is what was really happening." "I'll kill her." Tom's voice shook with rage. "My own sister, to my son." "No." I touched his arm gently. "We need to be smart about this. For Marcus." We stayed up most of the night, planning. Tom wanted to confront Alice immediately, but I convinced him to wait. We needed to do this right, to make sure she could never hurt Marcus, or anyone else, again. The next morning, I called Marcus' school and arranged for him to spend a few days with my parents, claiming a family emergency. Then I made another call to Dr. Reynolds, the child psychologist I'd been seeing since I first noticed the changes in Marcus' behavior. "I'm sending you some videos," I told her. "I need your professional opinion documented, and I need to know how to help my son heal from this." "Send them right away," she replied, her voice filled with concern. "I'll clear my schedule." Tom took the day off work, making calls of his own. By afternoon, he had spoken with his family lawyer and filed for a restraining order against Alice. The evidence was overwhelming. "Sunday dinner is still on," I told Maria when she called to check on us. "We'll be there. Just make sure the cameras are running." "Always," she promised, "and Senora Lisa, be careful. When Senora Alice is cornered, she's dangerous." The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. We got Marcus settled at my parents' house, telling him it was a special vacation. The relief on his face when he realized he wouldn't have to go to another family dinner broke my heart all over again. Dr. Reynolds' report arrived on Friday, a clinical documentation of emotional abuse and manipulation. She recommended immediate cessation of all contact between Marcus and Alice, along with regular therapy sessions to address the trauma. Tom read the report 3 times, each reading seeming to age him years. "I should have seen it," he kept saying. All those times he didn't want to go to dinner, the way he stopped talking about his day, how he flinched whenever Alice came near him. I should have known. "We both should have," I admitted. "But we know now, and we're going to fix it." Sunday arrived cold and clear. As we drove to Alice's house, Tom reached over and squeezed my hand. "Are you sure about this?" I nodded, thinking of Marcus' sad eyes and hunched shoulders. "Absolutely sure." Alice opened the door with her usual perfect smile, but I caught the flash of surprise when she saw Marcus wasn't with us. "Where's my favorite nephew?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake concern. "He's not feeling well," I replied smoothly, but Tom and I wouldn't miss dinner for anything. After all, family is everything, right? Her eyes narrowed slightly at my tone, but she maintained her smile. "Of course, dear. Family first, always." We followed her into the dining room, where James and his wife were already seated. Maria appeared silently with the wine, giving me an almost imperceptible nod. The cameras were rolling. As Alice launched into another story about her successful life, I caught Tom's eye. He gave me a slight nod. It was time. "Alice," I interrupted her mid-sentence, "there's something we need to discuss." "About Marcus." Her smile flickered. "Oh, is everything all right with the little dear?" "No," I said firmly, pulling out my tablet. "Everything is not all right, and I think it's time everyone saw exactly why." The color drained from Alice's face as I pressed play, and her own voice filled the dining room. "Worthless little brat. You're nothing but a stain on this family's name." The dining room fell silent as video after video played, showing Alice's true nature. James and his wife sat frozen, wine glasses halfway to their mouths. Maria stood in the doorway, head held high, no longer pretending not to watch. "Turn that off," Alice hissed, her perfect mask cracking. "You're taking everything out of context." "Context?" Tom's voice was deadly quiet. What possible context could justify terrorizing an 8-year-old child? "My son, your nephew." Alice's face twisted, transforming into the same cruel expression we'd seen in the videos. "Your son? That weak, whining brat who's ruining our family's reputation? Mom and Dad would be ashamed if they could see what he's done to the Wilson name." "Mom and Dad would be horrified to see what you've become," Tom shot back, standing up so suddenly his chair toppled over. "You think you're preserving the family name? You're destroying it." "I was trying to help," Alice shrieked, all pretense of sophistication gone. "Someone had to toughen him up. He's soft, just like his mother." This family was perfect until she came along with her common background and public school teaching job. I felt a strange calm settle over me as I stood to face her. "You know what, Alice? You're right about one thing. I am common. I come from common people who believed in simple things, like protecting children, loving them unconditionally, and never ever making them feel worthless." "Lisa," James spoke up for the first time, his voice shaking, "we had no idea. If we'd known." "Of course you didn't know," Alice sneered. "You were all too busy praising her for being such a wonderful mother. None of you saw how she was weakening this family, making us ordinary." "Ordinary?" I laughed, and the sound seemed to startle everyone. "Let me tell you what's ordinary, Alice. Emotional abuse, manipulation, using family traditions as a weapon. That's the most ordinary kind of cruelty there is." "Get out of my house," Alice snarled, reaching for the tablet. "And delete those videos or I'll—" "You'll what?" Tom's voice was ice cold. "Sue us? Go ahead. The videos have already been sent to our lawyer. Dr. Reynolds has submitted her professional evaluation. The restraining order was approved yesterday." Alice's face went from red to white in an instant. "Restraining order." "You're never going to come near our son again," I said firmly, "and everyone here is going to know exactly why." "You can't do this to me," Alice whispered, but her voice had lost its power. "This is my family." "No," Tom replied, taking my hand. "This was never about family for you. It was about control. About power. About making yourself feel important by tearing others down. But it's over now." James and his wife stood up, gathering their things without a word. They paused at the door, looking back at Alice with a mixture of disgust and pity. "We'll be in touch with the lawyer," James said quietly. "What you did, it wasn't just Marcus, was it? All those times you offered to babysit our kids." Alice's silence was answer enough. As we walked out of the house that had held so much hidden pain, Maria caught my arm. "Senora Lisa," she said softly, "tell him I'm sorry he didn't speak up sooner. You spoke up when it mattered," I assured her, "and you gave us the proof we needed. Thank you." The drive home was quiet, both of us processing everything that had happened. Finally, Tom spoke. I want to pick up Marcus tonight. I need to see him, to tell him. Me too, I said, already pulling out my phone to call my parents. An hour later, Marcus ran into our arms, his face lighting up when we told him he never had to go to Aunt Alice's house again. Really? He asked, looking between us hopefully. Never ever. Never ever, Tom promised, hugging him tight. And buddy, I'm so sorry we didn't see what was happening sooner. But I want you to know something. Everything she said about you, about Mom, about our family, it was all lies. We're going to see Dr. Reynolds together, I added, running my hand through Marcus's hair, to talk about everything that happened. Would you like that? He nodded, then asked in a small voice, Can we have family dinners at home now? With just us? Absolutely, Tom smiled, tears in his eyes. And you can ask all the questions you want, be as energetic as you want, and eat wherever you want. That night, we had our first real family dinner in months. Marcus chatted excitedly about his time with his grandparents, asking questions between every bite, his eyes bright and alive again. As I watched him demonstrate his new dinosaur knowledge with elaborate hand gestures, nearly knocking over his milk in his enthusiasm, I felt the last pieces of our family healing becoming stronger than before. Sometimes the most important family isn't the one you're born into or marry into. It's the one you protect, nurture, and choose to build together, one honest conversation and unconditional love at a time.